The number was 2,076. That was the verified body count inside Iran on a single morning. Before the sun rose over Tehran, before the next wave of bombs fell, over 2,000 people, civilians, soldiers, children as young as 8 months old, an 88-year-old woman. And the strikes have not stopped. They have never stopped. 34 days of continuous explosions across one of the oldest civilizations on Earth. And right now, the two sides are closer to total, uncontrolled escalation than at any point since this war began. Iran has issued what may be its last warning before things go somewhere the world cannot come back from. If what is happening right now matters to you, if you think the stakes of this war deserve more than a 60-second headline, subscribe before this video is over. What comes next will change how you understand this conflict entirely. Start with the dead, because the numbers are being deliberately kept confusing. Iran's official health ministry reported 1,937 killed. That was their stated figure. Independent human rights monitors documented 3,114 deaths inside Iran from airstrikes as of March 17th alone, including 1,354 confirmed civilians, over 1,000 military personnel, and hundreds still unclassified. By March 31st, Iran International reported that at least 4,700 Iranian security forces had been killed. The victims ranged in age from 8 months to 88 years. 25 Iranian hospitals have been damaged. 9 are completely out of service. At least 24,800 people have been wounded, among them 1,621 children. In Lebanon, where Israel simultaneously opened a ground front against Hezbollah, another 773 people have died. In Gulf states, Bahrain, the UAE, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, 27 more killed from Iranian retaliatory strikes. 15 American soldiers dead. Over 300 wounded, the majority from traumatic brain injuries caused by Iranian ballistic missile strikes on Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. One attack on that base involved 6 ballistic missiles and 29 drones, fired in a single wave. The total verified death count across all fronts has passed 4,500 and is climbing every hour. The number 2,076 was not the peak. It was a checkpoint on the way to something larger. Now understand what happened on February 28th, the first day of this war, because how a war starts tells you everything about how it will end. The United States and Israel launched coordinated surprise airstrikes on Iran in the pre-dawn hours. The first target was Iran's leadership house, the compound of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Khamenei was assassinated. The man who had led the Islamic Republic for 35 years, killed in the opening minutes of the war. Within days, nearly 50 senior members of Iran's political and military leadership were dead. The country's defense minister, its intelligence minister, its chief of military intelligence, the commander of IRGC naval forces, the head of Iran's nuclear development organization, an entire command structure, decapitated in the opening week. The world held its breath, waiting to see if Iran would collapse. It didn't. On March 7th, the Assembly of Experts announced a new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the man who was just assassinated. Iran did not fracture. It did not surrender. It did not ask for mercy. It closed the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. It doesn't look like much on a map. But through that 21-mile channel flows approximately 20% of all the oil traded on Earth. 20 million barrels per day, every day. Saudi Arabia's oil, the UAE's oil, Kuwait's oil, Qatar's liquefied natural gas, which heats homes across Europe. China gets a third of its total oil supply through that strait, South Korea, Japan, the entire industrial economy of the Pacific. Iran closed it. By March 2nd, no tankers in the strait were broadcasting any position signals. Traffic had effectively stopped. Within 2 weeks, California gasoline prices exceeded $5 a gallon. Brent crude oil reached $119 per barrel. By March 19th, Dubai crude hit $166 per barrel, the highest price ever recorded in history. The International Energy Agency released 400 million barrels from emergency reserves. The United States released 172 million barrels from its Strategic Petroleum Reserve. It wasn't enough to stop the price surge. Iran had done what no one believed a nation with its military limitations could do. It had reached across a 21-mile channel and grabbed the global economy by the throat, and it has not let go. There are now confirmed underwater mines in the Strait of Hormuz. American officials told journalists at least a dozen mines have been placed in the waterway. Trump himself acknowledged in a cabinet meeting that there could be more. If you have a billion-dollar ship and you hit a mine, he said, that's not the greatest thing in the world. Iran has also attacked at least 21 confirmed merchant ships since the war began. A U.S.-flagged vessel was struck twice in the port of Bahrain, starting a fire and killing a port worker. The IRGC has now established what can only be described as a toll booth on the strait. Iran is allowing ships from countries it considers non-hostile, China, India, Russia, to pass through with prior coordination. Vessels linked to the United States, Israel, or their allies are denied transit or attacked. The Iranian foreign minister said it plainly. Naturally, we will not allow our enemies to use this waterway. He went further. He said that after the war, Iran intends to draft a new protocol for the Strait of Hormuz, one where safe passage is guaranteed only under specific conditions. That is not the statement of a country that is losing. That is the statement of a country that believes it has already won the economic dimension of this war. Trump demanded that NATO allies send warships to reopen the strait. Every single one of them refused. France refused. Germany refused. The United Kingdom, America's closest ally, refused. Australia refused. Japan, South Korea, and Australia declined to join US-led strikes on Iran. Trump erupted. He called NATO's decision a very foolish mistake. He said the United States does not need the help of anyone. He went to Truth Social and said the US is blasting Iran into oblivion, and vowed to bring the country back to the Stone Ages. Then he announced a deadline. Open the Strait of Hormuz, or the United States will destroy Iran's power plants, its electrical grid, its civilian energy infrastructure. International law experts and United Nations officials responded to that threat with one word: war crime. Striking civilian power infrastructure that a population depends on for survival is a clear violation of the Geneva Conventions. The UN said so. Human rights organizations said so. Legal scholars said so. Trump extended the deadline, first to March 26th, then to April 6th. He cited ongoing talks as the reason. Iran denied that any talks were taking place, called Trump deceitful, said the claim of ceasefire negotiations was false and baseless. The April 6th deadline is now 3 days away. The ceasefire situation deserves its own chapter because it reveals exactly how broken the trust is between these two governments. Trump announced publicly that Iran's president had asked the United States for a ceasefire. He posted it on Truth Social. He announced it before a primetime national address. Iran's foreign ministry responded within hours. The claim is false and baseless. Iran's presidential office said Tehran's position on the war has not changed in any way. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, went even further. He said, "We are not seeking a ceasefire because we do not want this scenario to be repeated again after some time." Read that again. Iran is not seeking a ceasefire, not because it is winning on the battlefield, but because Iran believes that a ceasefire without a permanent resolution simply delays the next round of devastation. They have watched what happened before. June 2025, the 12-day war, the ceasefire that held for 8 months. Then February 28th arrived. The United States delivered a 15-point peace framework to Iran through Pakistani intermediaries. Iran rejected it. Iran issued its own counterproposal, one that includes the condition that Lebanon must be part of any deal, and that the war against Hezbollah must also end. Washington has not publicly responded to that counterproposal. The two sides are not negotiating. They are exchanging documents while missiles are still in the air. Now here is Iran's warning. The one that is being quietly described inside military and diplomatic circles as potentially the last one before something uncontrollable happens. Iran has made clear that if the United States proceeds to strike its power plants and civilian energy infrastructure, Iran will respond by targeting desalination facilities across the Gulf. Desalination plants. This is not a symbolic threat. This is existential. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain produce the vast majority of their drinking water through desalination. In some Gulf states, desalination accounts for nearly all freshwater supply. Iran is saying, if you cut our electricity, we will cut your water. The IRGC's naval commander, before he was killed by an Israeli airstrike, warned that oil facilities associated with America will come under fire. He told citizens and workers near those facilities to evacuate. Iran has threatened to target United States technology firms operating in the region. Iran's parliament is formalizing a system of fees for vessels attempting to use the Strait of Hormuz, institutionalizing the blockade into law. And Iran's parliament speaker has stated openly that Iranian forces are waiting for the arrival of American troops on the ground. That last statement is the most dangerous of all, because American troops are coming. The 82nd Airborne Division, one of the most elite rapid strike forces in the American military, has been deployed to the Middle East. Their leadership and headquarters staff are already in the region. 3,500 Marines and sailors aboard the USS Tripoli have arrived, with amphibious assault assets and strike aircraft. The Pentagon is openly discussing the possibility of weeks of ground operations in Iran. The specific target? Karg Island. Karg Island is where 90% of Iran's crude oil exports originate before traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. It is Iran's economic lifeline. 82nd Airborne paratroopers could theoretically parachute onto it. Marines could arrive by helicopter assault. Administration advisors have called the operation a no-brainer. Military analysts are less certain. They note that the current troop levels, estimated at 4,000 to 5,000 actual combat-capable soldiers, are enough to seize a small island for a limited period. Not enough to hold it, not enough for what comes next if Iran responds with everything it has left. Iran has already said what it will do when American soldiers land. It said it is waiting for them. And in the middle of all of this, in the 5th week of an active war, with soldiers deployed, with the April 6th deadline approaching, with mines in the strait and missiles in the air, the Secretary of Defense fired the Army's top general, General Randy George. 44 years of service, the 41st Chief of Staff of the United States Army, a man who earned the Combat Infantryman badge in 2 separate wars. Fired, effective immediately, no explanation. Replaced by a general who was chosen, in large part, because he called into Trump's inauguration ball from South Korea and told the president he was ready to do anything you need. Trump called him central casting. That man is now the acting head of the United States Army, the institution preparing for a potential ground war in one of the most complex military theaters on Earth. When the Army's top uniformed officer is removed mid-war and replaced by someone whose primary credential is loyalty to the civilian leadership, that is not a sign of strategic confidence. That is a sign of something else entirely. Here is what you are looking at as of today. A deadline, April 6th, for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz or face destruction of its power plants. An act that international law would classify as a war crime. An Iranian government that has rejected the ceasefire framework, called Trump a liar, and said explicitly that it is not looking for a ceasefire at all. A new supreme leader consolidating power after his father's assassination, with no reason to negotiate from a position that looks, to Iran's domestic audience, like surrender. A blockade that has already pushed oil prices to historic records and is threatening to push diesel prices in the United States to levels never seen before. Confirmed mines in one of the most strategically critical waterways in the world. Tens of thousands of American troops in the region, with more on the way. A potential ground operation on an Iranian island that Iran has promised to meet with maximum force. A firing of the Army's top general 5 weeks into the war. And a 15-point peace plan that Iran has already thrown out. This is not a war that is nearing completion. This is a war that is nearing a decision point. Every party to this conflict is running out of room to maneuver. The economic damage is now global. The human cost is already measured in thousands of lives. The strategic logic on both sides has hardened into positions that cannot easily be compromised. April 6th is not just a deadline. It is the moment when both governments have to choose. And neither of them has shown, at any point in these 35 days, that they are ready to back down. 2,076 dead was a number from a single morning. The question is what number comes next, and whether either side understands that once the next escalation happens, the one involving power plants, drinking water, desalination, and ground troops on Iranian soil, there may not be a ladder down from where this war goes. The point of no return has a deadline. It is 3 days away.